Mr. Keegan?
Here.
Okay, and then I'm John Kites, and I am also present. Okay, next we have public participation. Sabrina, do we have some folks online waiting to speak?
We do not.
Okay. All right, so I will now close up the.
Oh, wait, did we mention that we have comments though?
Yeah, I was about to actually. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, just to let the record show, we received several emails and letters. And those will be going into the minutes. I mean, excuse me, into the record for tonight. Suggest anyone that would like to read them to follow up by going onto the city's website, looking for the planning committee, and all those letters will be accessible to all. And those are in regards to the row 8 and sidewalks. Okay, now a little bit of administrative work, and that is the approval of the minutes for July 1st, 2021. Any corrections to those minutes?
Want a motion?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Livingston. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. Abstentions, noes, and I'm also yes. Sorry, the minutes pass unanimously. Great. Like I had said, I'm going to move the discussion item regarding the parking authority up to the front, so Mr. Hardin can enjoy his Asian succulents.
Woohoo!
Mike, thank you, by the way, for joining us tonight.
Anytime.
Just wanted to have a quick chat. A few things have just been brought to my attention personally as far as ticketing. I just wanted to get an update on the what you're doing. And I always seem to forget the term that's used by the parking authority when you give out not a ticket, but yet the courtesy program. There it is. A mental block on the courtesy cards. How's that going, Mike? Is that still active and in place?
Outstanding. Yeah, it's great. Listen, we had, about 3 years ago, there were no good comments coming to the parking authority at all. Every call we got was a problem, was an issue. It was toxic. It was crazy. So we all put our heads together and tried to come up with a bunch of things that we could turn that around. And the one thing that really stuck hard was this courtesy program. So we implemented this program to allow the constables to give these courtesy tickets instead of real money tickets that basically just say, hey, you went over your meter, or you parked here too long. This ticket is for another 20 minutes, and we hope that you have been able to finish your business in town and either move your car or put the meter again, and then in about a half an hour or so they would come back, and if it was still there, there's a chance that they would get that ticket then. But it was the tiniest little percentage. 95% of the time the courtesy card worked, and we started getting calls and Facebook posts and Instagram posts showing these courtesy tickets and saying, wow, this is really cool. This is great. And quite frankly, we didn't know what to do with it. It was praise for the parking authority, which is crazy. And now, even now, Laz is now considering this program that we piloted out to other cities that they're working in. It's really good. The way it works is it's completely anonymous. Nobody on the parking authority, none of the commissioners, nobody in the city, nobody knows when this is going to happen. The manager of Laz picks a day or two a week and gives certain amount of these courtesy cards to a certain number of constables for their shift, and then sends them out. So it's autonomous. It's we have nothing to do with where they land or how they land or who's getting them or anything. And it has just been extremely successful. I do have a few numbers for you. The courtesy program has it's hard if we were going to give tickets instead of the courtesy card, year to date costs us almost $500,000. And that savings, it's not savings, it's a loss to us, but it's a savings to those people out there that would have been paying anywhere between $25 and $60 for a ticket that they've done during poor parking decisions. And instead of that, what we've done is we've trained our constituents, the people that are parking out there, more and more and more, to really just use the parking system the way it's set up to use, and then everybody's happy. And we're really proud of the system. It does work very well, and yes, it continues on today. We actually put it into full effect for the pandemic, and we're only giving courtesy cards for the longest time. And then 2 months during the worst part of the pandemic last year, and please don't quote me, but I think it was May and June, we shut the entire system down, which was difficult because of the expense of doing that. And then as we brought it back, and anything we do differently, we start with this courtesy program, and we kind of walk it back in the exact same way we did on Washington Street just a few weeks ago. We had no idea the barriers were moving. Nobody told us. So when they moved, we were told we were giving back our spaces. We were told to reinitiate these spaces. So overnight, the only thing that we knew what to do and how to do is what we do. We put the signs back up for pay for parking, the app, and ticket. What is it called? And text to park, the two ways that you can pay for parking. And then instead of charging anybody or bringing out any tickets, we just started doing the courtesy cards again, getting everybody used to the fact that we're back and we're coming back. You know, we're just doing what we're told, right?
And we're going to cut you off real quick, Mike.
No, go ahead.
We're seeing that you just brought it up.
Yeah.
I was sent a video recently when you were talking about the barriers in Washington Street, where every car on the street, on both sides, had a ticket on it.
Yes.
I mean, literally the entire road up and down had a ticket on it.
Yes.
Just a little curious on, I mean, were you aware of that? Were those courtesy tickets? Yeah. Okay.
Well, we have to make money, right? We have a debt service. No, I'm kidding. Every single one of those tickets was a zero ticket.
Okay.
That just said, hey, the enforcement's about to begin again. And to this date, we still have not yet started live ticketing. Now,
Okay.
I don't like to make that too public, although I just did.
Because no one's watching.
Okay.
Trust me.
Because we don't want the public to know that, because then they will just take advantage of the system. And, you know, I think we all agree that, you know, the best thing for retail and for all of our businesses here is some type of managed parking, and we'll lose that if we publicize it. So we don't usually say anything about it, but there is no live money ticketing in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, which we are in right now, until such time as it begins to roll back in. But we're still in that zero ticketing. So
Well,
yes,
great.
it's like giving everybody a message, like we're back. You know?
Got it. And just one quick thing, and I know we've talked about it in the past, is the grace period that's allowed. It's been, you know, it got brought to my attention. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't even know, Mike, the parking authority exists. They all believe it's the act of the council, the mayor, DPW, whomever, which is, you know, it makes the target on your back a lot smaller, but bigger on ours. But to that point, grace period. Someone just recently sent me a picture of a ticket they received 36 seconds after the meter expired. I mean, is that still in effect? Is there still an active grace period of whatever the time limit is, or the time expansion?
So in situations like that, we would look at that ticket very closely and probably just dismiss it. You know, we do a lot of ticket dismissing, and I have a number of different scenarios that I'll talk about for that. But yes, there is a grace period. It's a 15-minute grace period. The problem is the 15-minute grace period is the first 15 minutes you park, because it's a system that we have to use, right? So normally you never see that. You never see that happening. It's very rare when somebody gets a ticket just a few seconds after the clock runs out. As a matter of fact, the actual heads, and again, not for public consumption, but the heads on the meter, when you look at the time, and it zeroes out because you've run out of time, the little red light on the other side of that alerts our constables doesn't turn red for 15 minutes. It's actually built in physically to the system. So there is that, but there's always, it's human error, right? There's always things that happen.
Right. And to that point, Mark, I mean, Mike, I've been, I spoke to Mr. Travers a few weeks back. I had just an example, someone feed the meter, but paid it at the wrong area.
Yes.
And Mr. Travers so kindly told me, well, you gotta go through the process, and this is the and unfortunately, I think a lot of people just bite that $25 because to take the time to go to the office and go through that process, I think people are more, just, okay, let me just pay the $25, but that kind of leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. Well, okay, I'm not going to Sono anymore. I'm not going to Wall Street. I'm not going to park in these lots because, of the process. Is there any thought or any ideas of changing that process where it could be done online, or something simpler, something people do from their homes versus having to go to the office, which in itself is, pretty big inconvenience?
Sure. Well, listen, the appeal process is a bit arduous. Absolutely. When you get a ticket, you have to deal with it. And the good news is it's under 1%, the amount of incorrect tickets, under 1%. Now, those tickets that are done by mistake, like for instance, punching in your plate number incorrectly, happens all the time. When you punch in your plate number incorrectly, you're getting a ticket because your plate's not going to come up on the machine and you're parked,
Right.
without paying.
Or you pay for Webster Street lot, but you're in Haviland.
Exactly.
Still get a ticket. I mean, things.
The good news is all you need to do, and what you have to do, unfortunately, we haven't figured out a better way yet, but all you have to do is take that into the maritime office with Sonia and the girls and show it to them. And in 2 minutes, they will recognize that has happened and rip the ticket up. And we do that all the time. People come in all the time and say, this is my plate number and this is what I punched in. It was a 2-3 instead of a 3-2, and it's forgiven immediately. I haven't really there's no real way to do that online yet. We are always looking to innovate, and we are always looking to do better things faster and with more, friendliness to it, if you would. But I don't know how we would make it any better than it is right now.
Are you aware of any municipalities that do it online, the appeal process?
No,
not
the appeal process. You can go. No. Jim, do you know of anyone that does an appeal process online?
So yes. And
good.
So I just we can do it online. It's 10 days, and we'll be working with the vendor to reduce that to be instantaneous. But you can appeal it online, but it's 10 days after the issuance. But we will make sure that is instantaneous.
So there you go. Absolutely. Stuff I don't even know yet.
Okay.
It looks like there is a solution in place or coming down the line. But yes, of course, we would always do something like that if we, right?
Great. Any questions for Mike from the committee? No? Okay. All right, Mike, I won't keep you any longer.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, since the committee isn't speaking, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Mike, a quick question. What do you have any metrics on the percentage of people that are using the Park mobile app as opposed to using the actual terminals or stations?
Right here in front of me, no, but I can tell you that it's a lot and it grows every day. Jim, do you have our latest operations report in front of you, last month's?
Yeah, so I don't have the operation report in front of it, but we talked about it. So it does vary wildly by location, but we're looking, up to there's sometimes up to 40% usage on the pay by the app.
System wide.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, I look at that app and I think that the use of it, the fact that it gives you all these notifications, all of the, it's like your time is running out, all of these things. I mean, it definitely starts to mitigate some of those issues of, tickets for time and that type of stuff and grace periods and that's what I like about it. I'm just curious how many people are actually using it. So that would be a wonderful thing to know. Thank you.
So that number does climb, and we will be looking on how you could receive those same notifications. Should you choose to log in your cell phone number at a pay station and get those notifications as well. Because
Oh, wow.
I agree with you. I think they're handy.
Yeah, it's a very handy tool. That's for sure. One other quick question, Mike, you mentioned about the courtesy tickets. Are the constables using all of them in a shift when they go out?
Yes,
They are. Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, the constables are the last people that want any conflicts. So when they're giving those courtesy tickets, it's a payday for them. They're happy about it because they get to go out and make a bunch of people happy instead of the other way around, which unfortunately is, they have the most difficult job, right? They have to patrol and they're required to ticket those people that have earned a ticket, that have done something wrong. So when we give these guys their packet for that day, or I don't do it, when the manager Rocky does it, it's their lucky day that week. That's what they get to do.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the stuff that you're doing and for giving up your cuisine for the moment.
It's all right. I got a microwave. I'll get it hot again.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask one question, just
Sure.
on these courtesy tickets, how do the constables decide who to give them to? Is there any basis for, I mean, I know we're not involved, but how do they decide?
It's random.
It is.
But the way it's worked out right now is that when somebody gets a packet of those tickets during their shift, that's pretty much their ticket book for their shift.
Okay.
Now, and remember, ticketing for me is less than 7% of my budget. It's not a lot of money. It's the only thing that ever gets any publicity, but it's really not a big part of our business. I know that doesn't sound right, but it's true.
No,
So
and
the few cars that they do have to give tickets to, they get to put courtesy cards on.
so do they keep track of who they give courtesy cards to?
Yes, the
So,
license plate gets logged into the system.
so in theory, could somebody get one every day? Courtesy card as opposed to a ticket?
Well, we don't do it every day.
Okay,
Uh,
I mean, yeah,
You mean every time?
yeah.
Don't know any instances of that happening, but I guess it could.
Yeah, okay, I'm just curious, I mean, how it works, but thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's a great program.
To Tom's question, so is there a log? Like, is there a record of it to say, okay, Joe Smith received a courtesy card and then parked in the same spot and the same time when courtesy cards were being given out again and Joe Smith got it again? Another courtesy card or is it just, you don't give him another courtesy card because you got one 2 days before, whenever the case may be?
No, they don't have. No, I don't think that's
Okay.
the case. But it's a good question, and I'm happy to ask it to the people. But I don't think. No, I don't
Tom,
think
you-
they know. They just all they're doing is plugging in the license plate and putting the courtesy card on there. They don't get history.
Got it. Tom, did you have anything else? No?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, just real quick before I let you go, I'm sure Laz is the biggest contractual obligation to the parking authority. Does that rate fluctuate to say, okay, we're taking 1,000 parking spots out of the stock and the cost now is this much for Laz?
So I've never experienced that, but I can tell you that when the mayor's office took 27 spots away from me when they closed Washington Street and turned those other ones into 15-minute parkings, we lost. It's basically $6,000 a spot a month for over a year and a half. The problem is we're still responsible contractually and insurance-wise to patrol them, keep them safe. and make sure that they're like, so we still had all the expenses for it. We just weren't getting any of the funding for
So
it.
there's no negotiation or reduction in cost for LAS if you take parking spots out of the stock?
Well, yeah, it would have to be dramatic, I think, but there is always negotiation, and is one of the reasons why our budget went from 7.2 to
Right.
5.9, because we told Laz, that we had to pull some things out and we had to settle some things down and recover from this past year. So
Do you have
yes, it's always a negotiation.
Do you have like a per spot cost that LAS charges?
I don't think it's per spot.
No.
Jim, do you know how they charge? I've been on this for 11 years, but they've been a part of us for 18 the whole time. So I'm not 100% sure, other than
So it's not on a per spot basis, right?
No.
So when
No.
we add parking spaces, just like the parking spaces that we added to Wall Street, it didn't increase the fee. It does increase their workload. But so in that instance, we take a little bit away on Washington, we add a little bit away on we add more on Wall Street, we add more when we here if there's a new development. So that does fluctuate, but it's not just by a parking space, because they're also managing the building, they're managing the assets, they're managing the debt service. So they look at becomes a larger thing, but not on a per space basis.
But I
Unless
do
it's-
want, I do want to add that Laz was really a great partner during COVID. And not only do we pay them for the enforcement, we also pay them for what Jim just commented on. But Laz actually reduced their operating costs by a significant percentage by basically pulling parking enforcement out of Norwalk and placing it in other cities and doing something with employment on that side. So although the parking spaces got pulled from the actual stock and the asset itself, the Laz did actually lower their operating costs for us. It wasn't by space and it wasn't per cost. And as we know, the train stations are a huge amount of the revenue for the parking authority. And obviously those were empty for a very long time. And so it wasn't negotiated on how empty the spaces were and for how long, but it wasn't Laz was required to reduce their operating costs to be able for the parking authority to be able to come out of the COVID crisis.
So it's more of a big picture thing. I mean,
Right.
overall, that the price pretty much stays the same. Okay. I mean, is that the case in other municipalities? Or is it just the agreement that the city has with LAS? I mean, do other cities do it by per spot? You just have a calculator that tells you how much their fees are going to be?
It doesn't in the sense that they're required to maintain the Sono train station and the Maritime Garage station, and also work with partners in order to be able to bring in revenue from those condo spaces that are in the Maritime Garage. So they do a lot more than, they're in charge of maintaining the bathrooms, the lights in the Sono train station. They're in charge of working with Metro North and DOT to be able to ensure that the platforms are up to speed. So they actually have quite a large scope and purview, well beyond just managing the actual parking spots on the ground. What's interesting though is that the contract is coming up in the next year or so. So we are going to have to write an RFP that is a parking RFP. And as Mike mentioned, LAS has been in place since 2002. So the RFP, now that we are moving through COVID, will be an interesting exercise to be able to understand how that happens. We actually have a assistant director for parking coming on board in the next week or so. And one of his first responsibilities is going to be helping just actually scope out that RFP and look at the work that Laz has done and really pull best practices from that. And then also work with Jim to find best practices from other communities that we can start to implement here in Norwalk.
Great. And the reason I bring it up is say, okay, and for some reason there was something you have an area in town that could it would benefit the local businesses or bring to encourage people to come down there, where you suspend parking and to offset the loss. You could have a reduction from LAS to kind of help with that offset. So that was just an idea I had, just to help grow areas such as Wall Street and other areas that are hurting or in need of more foot traffic, but okay, conversation for another time. Any questions for the group, for Jessica, Mike? No?
Hey, John, can I
Yes.
just mention, I always like to say this in little forums like this as I head off the screen here. I want everybody to remember, the city wanted managed parking, and we all agree that managed parking helps businesses. So this parking authority is 100% on your team, on the team of the retailers and the restaurants. And we listen to you guys every single day, and we adjust and do everything we can every day to make this the best place to come for, retail and restaurants. And everybody on the board, my board, really has that focus. We just want to make it, the best place to come. We have rules, we have debt service, we have bills, we have an entire business to run, so we can't just give up the wagon. But we do try to do absolutely everything within our power and within our scope to make this place the best we can. So with that, we're always open to suggestions. Everybody has our cell phone numbers. Everybody has a way to get a hold of us, and everybody is always invited to our meetings to come and give us this input and help us make these decisions. Because, like I said, just want to make it better for everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right. Seeing other questions, Mike, have a good night, sir.
I'm gonna go eat Chinese food.
Save me a fortune cookie.
Good night, guys.
Okay. Okay, moving on. So new business development, tourism. That's authorized Mayor Harry W. Rilling to sign any and all documents necessary to extend the agreement by and between the City of Norwalk, Norwalk Parking Authority, and Dorenberg Group LLC, DBA Dorenberg Callenbach Advertising, dated December 10, 2020, for marketing communication services, project number 4029, for a period of 1 year, in an amount not to exceed $100,000, payable under Norwalk Parking Authority. Sabrina, Jess, will one of you be speaking to this?
I can speak to it tonight. So 2 meetings ago, I believe, Todd was present and went over some of the KPIs and the work that we've been doing towards the Visit Norwalk initiative. As I explained at that meeting, but I'll reiterate, we had 2 contracts approved. One is in conjunction with the city and the parking authority for economic development initiatives, which is this contract that's in front of you today. The parking authority has already approved the expense in its budget and has approved to extend the contract. We like to have the city as a party, just in case funding changes in the future, and to make sure we have some oversight on the project itself, which, as Mia staff to it, I'm privy to everything that goes on from both the parking authority side and the City of Norwalk side. The second contract is strictly for Visit Norwalk to build the website, do the social media, and do outreach. The difference between the two is that the parking authority one is really to support business promotion for the small businesses that are adjacent to parking facilities, and the city side comes in to really do the more holistic approach. We happened to have DKA win both of those requests for proposals, which ended up working out fabulously in the long run, since we didn't have too many cooks in the kitchen and could really go towards the same vision. So this is just asking to approve that the mayor can execute the contract, even though these funds are specifically coming out of the parking authority's budget. You will see around November the contract that's purely the city's contract, which is the holistic Visit Norwalk contract, coming through for additional extension. But at this point, we still have a few months left on that contract, and about $50,000 left in that account to still pay them for the rest of the contract year for the other contract.
Okay. Any questions from the group?
Just want to add a comment that it's probably a good time to mention to Sabrina that DKA actually redid the Visit Norwalk website, and it launched just recently over the last couple of days. So anyone who has a chance to look at visitnorwalk.org, take a look. It looks really great, not only on the computer, but also on the phone. And there's a lot of There's a lot of customization that they added in where if people need larger font or need the font to look in a different way or the images to look in a different way, there's a lot of accessibility features that were added in, which is really great. So have a look if you haven't had a chance yet.
And Jess, Sabrina, how's the traffic to visit Norwalk? The
We're
web
getting
traffic.
we're getting a couple hundred a day. We're getting the major traffic on our social media. We were able to grow our social media presence since November from 0 to about 1,300 at this point. We're really going to see some significant traction once we start using advertising dollars to really promote the brand. This past couple of months since November was really building out the website, building out content, having folks involved that need to be involved to feed content to the website and further build it out as we're still doing to this day and will continue to do to keep the content fresh. So at this point, it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what $1 of advertising kind of affects the website, people coming here, and our social media. So I'm really excited about that initiative to begin, but there's a planning process that's going on behind the scenes for that as well, because we want to test kind of what's working best for us. A lot of times what we've been doing is really promoting locally instead of outward focused. So doing outward focused stuff, we want to test if the social media dollars are worth it, or if, advertisement in this magazine is worth it. Is it getting us traffic to that website? Is it getting more followers? What's the result of all of that? So we're slowly building and additionally building additional businesses on the website, as well as additional visitors to the website. So we have 3 running lists going. We have a public facing email list, which is everybody who wants to hear about Norwalk. Then we have a business list, which is everybody who's actually physically on Visit Norwalk and might want to participate in a promotion or anything like that. And then we have a third list, which are prospective businesses that haven't reached out to us with their content yet, but we're hoping to onboard them. Just last week, we added an additional 50 businesses on there. And every week going forward, as the website's now done and the social media is successful and running the way it's supposed to be running, we'll continue to add more businesses so that it's more holistic.
Okay. Is there a link on the city's website?
Yep, it's right on the like visitors link. It's like the first thing there.
Well, that's great. That's great. Any other questions from the group? No? Okay, thank you, Sabrina, Jessica. Would someone like to move that item? Thank you, Mr. Keegan. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. Opposed, abstentions? I'm also yes, the item passes unanimously. Thank you, ladies. Just really quick, just want to let the record show Darlene Young joined us about 7:10. So that was it. Okay, moving on now. We have item B1. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the city of Norwalk and Vanessa Hagen Bruslin, Inc., VHB Inc., for the Rowayton Avenue sidewalk concept and design for an amount not to exceed $50,000. Account numbers noted. Would someone like to move that? Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Who do we have with us tonight to speak to that?
Mr. Kites, it's Jim Travers.
Hey.
So I think within my first week of joining the city, I got phone calls from residents of Rowayton wanting me to come down and talk about sidewalks. And since that time, I've had a countless number of meetings to talk about sidewalks. I've walked the areas with them. They were quick to announce that the city had allocated funds to begin this concept and design in years past, and it had not been executed to date. They're very anxious to have it executed. So we had from that we did have a meeting down in Rowayton. We had about 60 people, I think, in attendance of the meeting, largely in support of sidewalks. So the item number 1 is what really is viewed in Rowayton as the main route, walking route to the train station. There's part of it is Route 136. So there's part of it is state route, which falls under a little bit of a different jurisdiction as when it comes to the approval for design. And then the other portion is going to be on city property, but this will be combined together So the city had already engaged engineering design services through 2 of approved vendors. We went to both of those vendors with the scope of services. This was the lower. I have experience working with this firm. So it would be, in this case of the Roy, and it would be to look at the concept design, where you're determining the best location for the sidewalk, giving the community some visualizations so they get to see initially what it would be. It would have a community meeting, and then with that move on to design. The design in this first would be we're going to determine the actual cost of expenses, but more importantly, we'll go to DOT for their approval and a supplement agreement to build, get an encroachment permit to that. But we will see what comes out of this, the funding that is necessary to actually build those sidewalks.
Do we have a ballpark estimate what this will cost? Just out of curiosity.
Not at this time, no. That's what's going to come out of this. So in this, what's happening with this one is it'll also look at the city's right of way. It will understand we'll have some supplemental conversations with DOT at what would their requirements be for sidewalks on their property from initial concept designs before we can move into a construction design. That all those costs will come out of that one. But it will be in advance of next year's budget cycle. So we'll be well prepared for advancing that to next year's budget.
What's the turnaround time on these design, conceptual, engineering work?
So in this one, it'd probably be a little bit longer because it would require a lot of review and concurrence from DOT, and sometimes their turnaround times are quicker than others. But right now, I've seen some significant delays that are coming from their turnaround times on city projects.
Okay. So I'm sorry, did you give a timeline? Did I miss it?
No, we don't have a timeline.
No idea.
We very much try to get this done in advance of the next the fiscal cycle, so that we can get it in, so we can get it budgeted for a budget request for next year. But I don't have a timeline on this as of yet.
Understood. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Yeah, John, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Livingston. Tom, you're on mute.
Keep doing that tonight. I want to thank Jim and Garrett and the whole team on this. I mean, this, as he suggested, has been a hot button for many, many years, long before I was on the council. And Jim was, I guess, didn't say that I was one of the people that called him his first week and had him get down there. And Lisa and I have had him down a number of times because it is a really important issue for the residents down there. As you've seen, it's just a small sampling of the comments that we've been getting, Lisa and I have been getting, were sent in tonight. As I said, it predates me. The money was allocated in the capital budget for these studies a number of years ago. So this is the next step. And as Jim suggested, a lot of people have been saying, well, yeah, you do this, but you don't follow through. And this is actually following through on what has been allocated and what the residents want. I think so. I really commend Jim and his team for doing all they've done. And thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Shanahan?
I too want to thank Jim and Garrett. And yes, they did come down on a cold January day. And I think Jim was pretty sure that we were going to kill him because our sidewalks and our streets are very, very narrow on Rowayton. And he experienced the cars whizzing by. And I think both of them better understand the situation when you're pushing a stroller and walking a dog in Rowayton. It can be a harrowing experience. So we thank you for your coming down and being so open to it. And Jim at the 6th Taxing District meeting promised to come back as many times as necessary to the 6th Taxing District to preview these plans. And we really appreciate it because we know that our constituents are going to be happy to see him again. So we thank you very, very much for this. This is really important for our town.
Of course.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing other questions or comments, I will now call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. Looks to be unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 2, and that's to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the city of Norwalk and Vanessa Hagen Bruslin Inc., VHB Inc., for the Hunts Street, Witch Lane sidewalk feasibility for an amount not to exceed 27,000. Account numbers noted. Would someone like to move this? Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Jim, I believe you'll be speaking to this as well.
This was item number 2 of my conversations with the residents, and I have a letter here today that came in from them as well. So this runs to the same. Hunt and Witch are very narrow roads, and very much residential roads. We've in every visit that we've been down there, we've seen people walking on the streets. We've heard from people who are concerned about walking their children and walking their pets and getting into the train station. But it's a narrow road, and we have to look at what are some of the challenges that exist here. So this one will also include the concept design, because this is also additionally older funds that were allocated for this. So this one will look at taking survey, understanding the city's public right of way that exists in the street, determining based on the geometric curves of the road, the horizontal curves of the road, where the best place for a sidewalk would be, to understand the costs associated with them, because in some instances we may be further closer to properties, or we may be looking at retaining walls to make it happen. On the other portion, this one is not from a design perspective. This one will come at the end. We will have an understanding of cost to make this happen, but it really is going to give some concept designs to the community so that they can understand what would be the impact on this really narrow street, and determine the decision that they want to make in going forward. But it's been, again, we were out a few weeks ago at a smaller little neighborhood meeting in the rain to talk with people out to really emphasize the importance and their desire to have more sidewalks in Rowayton. So we hear them, and this is really just putting I believe to be a responsive government. In this case, maybe a delayed responsive government, but nonetheless, we will respond to them and allocate the funds necessary to that's been assigned to this to make it happen. But this one does not come with design. This is concept that the community will make a determination on the path forward.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes.
I have a comment. No.
Oh, Lisa,
Yeah, for some reason, I guess I better go like this.
I can't see you on that.
I wanted to say 2 things. First of all, I was there with Jim and Garrett in the rain, so really appreciate that. That was a really tough day because it was cold and rainy and windy. But I also wanted to thank Jim and Garrett, because one of the things that did happen at Hunt and Witch in that little jurisdiction is 2 things that they took care of, and I want to thank them from the community. There is the road got paved, and then this is a new painted stop on the road, and it really looks good. You can see it from a great distance, and I have to say that it's really improved that intersection a lot. There's still more work to be done to make it safer for pedestrians, but one of the problems we had was people barreling through that stop sign. So thank you. And then I think you also encouraged the police patrolling of that area, and we've had a little bit more attention there too. So thank you for getting that work done too. It's been helpful in that whole corner. So thank you. And now I'm prepared to vote if you're, unless Tom wants to say something.
No, I would just say what I said last time, so.
Okay, all right. Let's do it again. All in favor? Opposed? No? I'm also yes. Motion passes unanimously. Hope Rowayton remembers me when I need something in East Norwalk. Thank you. Okay. Item 3, authorize Chief of Operations Public Works to execute orders on the contract with Titan Enterprises Inc. for the project CMP 2020-1 ADA access to sidewalks replacement at City Hall and Health Department for the sum not to exceed $30,000. Account number noted. This is Jim. Is this you as well?
This will be Mike. Mike's on for this one.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. How are you?
Very well.
There's down at Calf Pasture Beach. There's a short stretch on the eastern side from Calf Pasture Beach Road into the beach property where there's a missing section of sidewalk. What we like to do is install that sidewalk this year and complete that section. And that's basically what the request is for. We already have a contractor on board that is ready and mobilized and can do the work, and they do
Hey,
very
Mike, I
nice
see here it says City Hall and Health Department. You had said the Calf Pasture Beach.
Yes, what they did is they did the work here. They did the work recently at City Hall,
Right.
and they did they did a very nice job, and like to use that same contract. Their price was good, and to extend those sidewalks and connect that basically there's like 200 missing feet of sidewalk. So as you walk into the park on the east side, there's an existing sidewalk there that stops, and then you have grass, and then that picks up right after that. So it's
Mike, I think what Mr. Kites is saying is the item number 3 is not written as Calf Pasture Beach. It's written as the sidewalks at City Hall. So I think maybe because we're using the same contractors, Kites, I think what happened is there is a typo here. It's not the City Hall has been done by Titan. Mike is looking to extend that. With Titan, who we already have a history of doing it, move it to the Calf Pasture Beach. But Mike, is it still $30,000 for the Calf Pasture Beach project?
it would be about $30,000. Yes,
Is
Yeah,
the
so I
account
think
number
we
the
just-
same?
the account number would be the same. Yes.
Yeah, but the item's different.
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment. That amendment to read access and sidewalk replacement at Calf Pasture Beach. All in favor? On the amendment? Okay, unanimous. All right, now the item as amended, all in favor? Unanimous again. Okay, do you have that recording secretary to remove City Hall and the Health Department and replace it with Calf Pasture Beach? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Okay, any questions for Mike? No? Okay, so
Thank you.
we're good. Thanks, Mike. All right, next up is item 4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Stantec Inc. for the construction inspection services for State Project 102 through 350 Norwalk River Valley Trail, Phase 2, for an amount not to exceed $20,000. Sole source account number noted. Would someone like to move that? Thank you, Mr. Keegan. And Mike, will you speaking to this as well?
Yes, I am. Currently, we're under construction with the Norwalk River Valley Trail, and there's some some engineering services that we don't have the technical ability to handle. Basically, it's on some of the piles and structural details. So what we need to have Stantec, who's the designer of record, assist us in that endeavor, and that's what this request is for.
Okay. Construction inspection services. Okay. Is this amount being are we have any other communities such as Wilton or other local people that benefit from the River Valley Trail also contributing to this, or is this just solely on Norwalk?
This would be solely on Norwalk. This is the piece off of Riverside Avenue.
Got it. Any questions in regards to this item? Comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Livingston.
Mike, can you tell me about your experience with Stantec on this project? I mean, how have they been?
They've been fine, not bad.
'Cause I understand there have been some issues with them on other projects. So
I think they're a little bit busy, but they've been responsive on this job.
And we've been working with them, with Brian Bedoli. We've been working with Stantec to be in closer contact with them on a number of different projects that we're working on them with. So we have a few contracts with the RDA and a few contracts with the city. And, you know, we've had a couple calls with them to ensure that the responsiveness is where it needs to be for all of these projects. And also had communications with them that, you know, that we have some concerns with how that communication is happening and that responsiveness is happening. So they've been very receptive to that. And although NRVT, they've been very receptive on, there are some other challenges, but we've been working through those challenges with them. So your comment is right on. It just, we've been working with them to be able to work through those challenges.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I will now call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. No's, abstentions, the item passes unanimously. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I will be looking for one more motion. And I can stay here all night if you like.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. All right, all in favor?
Let me go.
All right, everyone, enjoy your weekend.
You too. Good night.
Take care.
Right.
Right.